Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Michael Monroe. How are you?
Good. I have arrived.
That's right. You are a harp player and one of the few people that I can think in rock that plays saxophone. It's like there's really not people that really do it. It's like probably actually say like you and Ian from Jethro Tull are the only guys that actually have instruments that you wouldn't think about being in a rock and roll band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he played the flute, right?
Yeah, he plays the flute and you play the saxophone. Those aren't things you usually see in a band, you know?
Yeah, in a rock band and a singer like me, yeah, it doesn't happen every day. Not many singers play that, and I think it adds a nice color. And usually I have a couple of songs with the sax on my albums, and the harp too. Because everybody normally always wants to play the guitar and play these solos, and that's why a lot of great rhythm players are not as appreciated as solo players, like Malcolm Young. And Keith Richards was originally really a rhythm player, and really that has a lot to do with the entirety of the sound of the band. That there's a lot to be said about that. The rhythm player,
solid, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is I think with the saxophone to me, because I always feel the very strong 1950s.
Yeah,
that's in your music, in you, and to me, when I first heard you, let me step back a little bit. People aren't aware of who you are. Obviously, Hanoi Rocks and solo, but when I first heard you guys being in America, I'm thinking it was two steps from the movie. So when I first heard you, like had the cassette, and I'm listening to it. And I remember I'm like it's kind of punk, but then it's also glam, like Slade type. But then I'm like, so is it punk or is it glam? But it's got this like rock and melody. And then wait, it's a saxophone. This is bananas. What kind of music is this?
Right? And it's rock and roll,
and it's rock and roll. And to me, it feels like it harkens back to like, yeah, it's like you sprinkle a little of this, little of that, little Richard, and it's your sound. And
exactly,
it's carried over though to all the projects you've done. It's not just Hanoi Rocks. I mean, you kind of sound, you are the sound of it. I mean, you're the voice.
That's a great analysis of the band. What you just said, it's just because one of the best things about Hanoi was we defied all categories. Mm-hmm. We had all these influences and we made our own thing about it, and that's the best when that happens. That's but all the best bands should do. And do have influences from everything, and we had from punk to calypso. We played from Little Richard to the Rolling Stones to the Ramones and everything in between, and funk and reggae and blues and soul, and we made our own thing, and that's what I still do my own thing, and it's rock and roll. There's no need to categorize it, and
I agree. And we talk about Andy. Andy is the same thing. He goes, what is categories? What are borders? No borders. He got me good. Yeah. He got me good on that one because it's really just rock and roll is the older stuff, and back then.
That's right.
How it holds up, Yeah.
No need to restrict yourself with any kind of categories or genres. And that's what the record companies, of course, they encourage that because they want to market a product with I
think that was a hard time. I think that they had with you guys because I think they wanted to make you this, and I think some of the best bands they always say to like you're not that. That's why you guys are who you are.
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking.
Yeah, and then can you believe it? CBS they thought the Two Steps from the Move cover. They said, "Oh, that's too heavy metal." They thought that the cover was, and I was like, "What?" And they said, "I don't hear a single. I mean, don't you ever leave me? No, million miles away." Or Up Around the Bend was like, well, the reason we had that song was at the last minute was. Because the song Two Steps from the Move was left off the album. Bob Ezrin, first of all, he said it was the craziest song he's ever heard, and that showed up later in on a compilation or so. But the Up Around the Bend was like the record company said, we don't hear a single, and we were on tour in Germany at the time already, and Ezrin was mixing the album, and then the only cassette we had with us in the van was Creedence Clearwater Revival live at the Royal Albert Hall, and we thought, let's take one of these, either Bad Moon Rising, Hey Tonight, or Up Around the Bend. And we thought, Up Around the Bend, let's take that one. And then Ezrin flew over to London. We went into the studio in Camden Town. I forgot the name of it, but we did it one day, a recording. We rearranged the song and made it like our own. And even my mother said that, I like your version better than the original. I was
going to say, I was not a fan of them. Like, I did not like them, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And then I heard your version. It actually went back, and I've grown to have more appreciation for them through your version of that song.
No, thank you. But I mean, both are good in their own way. But our version is maybe it's a bit faster. It's moving, it's grooving. It's just a different approach.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has the modulations and stuff. There's a lot more happening there. So it's more like the original one is of course the same key and the same. It doesn't really go anywhere further than which ends as it starts. But of course, I respect the original, and John Fogerty.
Absolutely.
Of course, he's a hero.
They've had their own sound, but to me, I'm a fan of you guys and that sound. So you guys doing it made that song much more enjoyable.
Yeah, we did it in one day. I remember in the backing vocals, in the middle section with the drums with us, the come on the rise and when the harmonies come. I remember Nasty was in pretty not feeling that great. It was that much bad shape that he passed out when he was singing. Come on, rise and win. So Bob Ezrin is singing. This is just like trivia information. Bob Ezrin is singing the harmony. The come on the rise and win, going up around the bend. He's singing that harmony because Nasty passed out. It was a bit, he had a bit too much drink or something. So, and I remember it was like one day, yeah, we did that. And then it was mixed the next day. I was the only one in the studio with the guy who mixed it. His name was David Tickle. We mixed it and went in to listen to it in his car. And then that was like, oh yeah, sounds good.
That was a test. Yeah. The ultimate test, right? Is in the car. You get it all done. You work in a big studio, then everyone runs out to the car to hear it in the car.
Yeah. Well, when we did Demolition 23 album with Little Steven, then that was when Steven had this. Well, he was like, I got him into the Sex Pistols. I wanted the Great Rock and Roll Swindle. I mean, the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, the movie, as a Christmas present one Christmas, the VHS tape, and he loved it. It was like, whoa. And he just, I took him to see Iggy Pop. He'd never seen Iggy either.
Really?
Yeah, so he got into all this punk stuff, and when he was producing the Demolition 23 album, he used the Never Mind the Bollocks, his Sex Pistols. That album was like his blueprint for or Bible for that record. He was always comparing the sounds, and he had this shitty little boombox that he always went to listen to the mixes on. If it sounds good on this shitty little thing, then it's gonna sound good everywhere. So that was a good point, and that was one of the most fun I had making a record. We did it in like 2 weeks. We recorded the basic tracks with 10 songs, basic tracks in 3 days in music, and then I sang all the songs in 2 days. And then it was like one take.
That was a good album. That was a good album, though.
Yeah,
it sounded good.
Really,
I mean, actually,
that's been unavailable for years and years, and now finally this year it's going to come out in October on Little Steven's Wicked Cool Records. He's going to release it. It's remastered. Yeah. It's I was at the mastering. It was mastered here in Finland with my guy. I was there, and it's got more kicking drum. The drums are kicking more. The sound is improved. It's even more kick-ass, and it's going to come out on vinyl, which it never did. Never out on vinyl before. It's going to come out vinyl, CD, and digital, all the formats, and coming out on October this year in October. So that's exciting. It's a great record, and we always
guitars are so heavy on that. You always have good guitars, though. I mean, even when you did
Jay Henning, God rest his soul, he was
a star, right?
He would have been a superstar if he hadn't done himself in. I mean, he took his own life, sadly, in was it 97, I think. He killed himself.
Timeline,
yeah, and it's really sad because he was such a great guitarist. I mean, for that band to have only one guitarist, that he really filled the space with his solos and everything. He was like, it's really hard to kind of play with if you're the only guitarist when you play solos, it often feels like it's
right.
Kind
there's
of,
a hole there.
Yeah, exactly. So he filled it. He filled the space with his solos in such a great way that it was never a hole there. And it was a fantastic player, and really too bad. He had he had some problems with had a bit of a habit, and he was trying to kick it, and then he got arrested while in Alphabet City when he was scoring something, and we had to get Nasty Suicide to replace him. We were just going to go on tour. It was like a week or two before the tour, and last minute we had Nasty to replace him. We were on our way to Japan, and we played in London and Finland, and then went to Japan, and unfortunately he was left out because of that. And he
didn't make it to video, did he? Because there's video of that. I think it's Nasty playing guitar on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube.
We did a video of Nothing's All Right that he's in that video. Jay is.
Okay. I saw a live performance of it as I'm talking.
Live. Yeah. I mean, there's some live stuff. We did. We had the Monday nights at the Grand in New York for like was it 10 nights in a row? We had, you know, and Joe Ramone as a guest the first night. Every night we had Ian Hunter one night. We had a guest. We did 3 songs with a guest
Wow.
every night on Mondays. And it was called Michael Monroe and Friends. And it was me, Sammy Affa, Jimmy Clark, and Jay Henning. That was actually the band, the Demolition 23 band, and did, you know, they showed videos of all this vintage, all this MC5, Stooges, Dead Boys, and all the coolest Alice Cooper, and till the midnight. Then the band hit the stage, and we played the coolest punk covers from the Damned, the Ruts, the you know, MC5, all our favorites, Stooges and Hanoi, of course, and my stuff, Dead Joe Rock and Roll and all that. And really killer shows. There were. We created a scene at the Grand Club, and then we ended up making our album. We actually made 3 demos of the songs Hammersmith Palais, Dysfunctional, and The Scum Lives On beforehand at the Baby Monster Studios on 14th Street. And those 3 demos, I had them. And those are going to be on as bonus tracks on this
Nice.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to it, because I've only heard it off of like on YouTube. So
yeah,
you know.
and there's a long form video that came out in Japan. There's a long form video that kind of covers the trip from New York to Tokyo, to Japan, and there's the Tokyo show is at the end of it all. But in the beginning, there's footage from what's the place? What's that? Mercury Lounge we played in New York with Jay Henning on guitar. There's footage on that with him on guitar with the songs, and
I'll have to look that up.
Jay's in it. Yeah, Jay's in, and then there's a video of the Nothing's All Right video that Jay's in, and there's some interviews we managed to do with Jay in the beginning, but it's just such a shame. I mean, Nasty did a great job with him, but then you could also, Nasty is used to playing with another guitarist, so he's more like that in that sense. Jay suit the one guitar player better, being the only guitarist covering the space and stuff. I mean, Nasty's kind of maybe plays better with 2 guitars. You know, he's like the running, which is a weaving thing, which is fantastic. And he did great with Demolition, but Jay really had that one guitar. You know, if you have bass, drums, and guitar, all these solos and stuff, he really was exceptional, fantastic. And also Alice Cooper fan, who I never imagined I met him through Tommy Price, the drummer, who had a jam at the Telephone Bar and Grill on 2nd Avenue and 10th Street. We were doing a benefit for this girl, Gilda, who was a waitress who had AIDS, and she was dying in the hospital. We did like a benefit for her, and Joan Jett was there, and Tommy Price. And then we put this band together. Johnny Rayo, who used to play in David Johansen's band, Tommy Price, Sammy Alpha on bass, and Jay Henning on guitar. On the other guitar with Johnny Rayo, and we played a few songs. We played like Funky But Chic, the Johansson song. We did Free, Wishing Well for Free. We did Under My Wheels and stuff like that, you know, rock and roll. And then Jay Henning, I met him, and I got to know him. I said, this is an amazing guitarist. And he had his snakeskin platform boots, first of all. I was like, wow, like this yellow, kind of neon yellow, worn out snakeskin platform boots. I said, wow, and they look cool on him. And he was like, yeah, he knew every Alice Cooper record, even the first 2 albums, Easy Action and Pretty's for You, all the songs, every note.
Oh, wow.
I
know Alice, but I couldn't
even Alex doesn't understand those records. It's just like, you know, it's so weird, and they were trying to be like Frank Zappa or something, and it was funny. Yeah, he was exceptional. God rest his soul, Jay Henning. I mean, he would have been a superstar. Such a shame.
It was good. I mean, as he came in, I mean, and that was after you did the one-off album. You did Jerusalem Slim, another good album. I know it didn't continue on with Steve Stevens, whatever, but regardless, you guys. That was a good. That sounds good too, though. That is a good sound.
It looked good on paper. What do you mean? You mean the Jerusalem Slim album?
Yeah, it sounds good.
The idea was, well, that album was to me, it was a disaster. But it started out as, well, Steve, he approached me after he's heard the album Not Faking It. He heard Phil Grande, God rest his soul. He was the amazing guitarist, and then All Night with the Lights On, that solos guy. Well, I had Michael Frondelli as the engineer, who produced or recorded the Rebel Yell album. He was the engineer on that record, and he used maybe some effect on that solo and all night with the lights on. And Steve was like, he called me and said, man, I should be a guitarist. And so I know he looked the part, and great player. And he played the kind of rock and roll he knew I liked, Chuck Berry, more like the Chuck Berry direction, which he could, of course. But, and we did demos for about a year. And the demos were sounding promising and great. And then I wanted Little Steven to produce the album, but the Polygram Records, it was my deal with Polygram Records, and they didn't want to allow that. And I was like, wow. So then, and they insisted on Michael Wagner, the heavy metal producer from Germany, who had just happened to be the flavor of the month at the time. He'd done an Ozzy Osbourne album he mixed at the time, the No More Tears or something.
Yeah.
And then there was he'd done the Skid Row records, and it wasn't, and that was a big mistake, because Steve easily would go that way, even though he was saying he wanted to, play the kind of guitar he knows I liked. And he played great on the demos, which are available, by the way, in the internet. You can find them, JS The Demos. You can find them, the original songs, the original demos, so you can tell what it was supposed to be.
Well, I'm gonna check them out then. I mean, because if I like those, the other ones could be even better.
Underground had like 2 guitar parts, and we ended up in LA. We were supposed to be 2 or 3 weeks of guitars, ended up being 3 months of guitar hell, and him doubling, quadrupling guitar parts, like the same part. I was like, what happened to the 2 guitar parts? And he was saying he wanted to have another guitarist, so he'll be like, like the kind of music I play. Like even Dead Jello Rock and Roll. There's 2 guitars that are weaving, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
But that's
so he started, like, all of a sudden he went that way, and Wagner, as the producer, was the worst competition because he was encouraging, the solos and more and more the 2 hands on the neck crap, a million notes a second with no soul. And it was all of a sudden like, what the hell is this? And I said, this is not my record anymore. Steve, what happened to the demos? I mean, that was the whole blueprint for the album. And, forget the demos. He's like, we're making the album now. And don't bother me. I want to play I want to impress everyone with my guitar playing. It's like, what the hell? I mean, the songs aren't going to be, I took off there. I mean, I saved some of the songs. I mean, we had Scum Lives On, which unfortunately the album, the record company put out the album against my will, because and Scum Lives On, there's a version of it which ended up on as a bonus track in a European version of the record, which I pulled out the best songs of the album. And I said, okay, let it be a shit album with heavy metal histrionics and the worst songs. I saved some of the songs of the album that I wanted to save for Demolition 23, like Bedtime Stories, or it was going to be on the record. And luckily I managed to pull it out, because but Scum Lives On I didn't want, because that version, well, there's nothing good about that version except we had Donald Trump in the scumbag section in the middle. It's Donald Trump and Tipper Gore we had there in the lyrics, which is I regret that we took it off with Steven in the studio. Steven is the same thing. Is the only thing he's pissed about, that we didn't have Donald Trump and the Demolition 23 version his names. But the thing is, I was freaking out, and the record was going the wrong way. And then I even tried to stop it. We were in LA. I never wanted to go there in the first place. And I had done my vocals already in Wisconsin, where we did the basic tracks in some stupid studio that Wagner went to
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah, the cheese capital.
I've never heard of any albums done in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it was a studio. It was like this broken down shack. It was some old, that used to be I think it was like a Playboy resort with a golf course or something. It was just a big meadow with or grass. There's some with geese, with goose shit all over the place. And the place is like, it was raining and the water's dripping, and even in LA, the studio was called Scream or something, and they had like, when it was raining, it was like a big rainy season. There was water dripping on the tapes, even in the little room there. I was like, wait a minute, the roof is leaking. What are we doing in this shitty studio? You're a millionaire fucking producer. So in any case, and the end of it all, as I thought, this is not my record anymore, and I'd given up on it. And Steve was, made himself very distant. We got to the mixing part, and then all of a sudden Steve comes to me and says, Michael, Wagner is mixing it all wrong. And they had a falling out. All of a sudden they started arguing. I said, wait a minute, whoa. I thought at least I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe you guys knew something I didn't know, which I knew was not right anyways. But wait a minute, I thought you were in agreement with him. Now you're telling me he's mixing it all wrong. Steve, this album's done wrong from the get-go. When we started doing your fucking complicating everything and arrangements and everything, we had a simple rock record we were going to make. Now you made it all like fucking heavy metal histrionics bullshit. And now you're saying that you're not even agreeing with Wagner. This is crazy. And now we got to start all over and make the record what it was supposed to be. So are you in agreement with me? Shall we now go to New York and start again? We even had this guy, he said, yes, let's do it. I was okay, we'll scrap everything, start from scratch. And we even had this guy, Bob Rosa, who mixed one of the songs, Rock and Roll Degeneration. He mixed it in New York as a test. We tried him in the Electric Lady, and it was much better. That's the version I think is on the album that finally came out. And then Steve, all of a sudden, Steve disappeared. And I thought, what happened to the guy? And next thing I know, I saw him on MTV at the MTV Awards playing guitar with the Motley Crue singer, Vince Neil.
Oh, Vince Neil, he went and joined his band for about 10 minutes.
Doing a solo career, starting a solo career. Steve is playing guitar with him all of a sudden without telling me nothing. He just disappeared and left me with a bag of shit. And there was even a song called Downward Immobile, which had a chorus that went, can't have your cake and eat it too. He took that song, even though I wrote that song with him, he took that song with the Vince Neil, and they wrote the verses, they changed the lyrics to something else.
Serious? I mean, considering your history with Vince Neil, of all people to go to.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, but yeah, what a coincidence.
That is actually insane.
Yeah, and they had the chorus, they can't have your cake and eat it too. They had that line there, and they called the song "Can't Have Your Cake," and that was my lyric. And the verses I had was much. I mean, Downward Immobile, they had a cool point, and my melody was way better in my opinion, anyways. So they made it into typical kind of like, as I said, that kind of like a melody. Then I thought, my agreement with Polygram Records, they had my publishing. So it was all Steve, about money too. He says, well, with Billy, we always had 50-50 deal, no matter what. Says, how can you know? What if I write with someone else? And what if someone else writes a part in the song and it still had to be 50% for you? And Polygram is taking 50% of my publishing anyways, with the deal. And they're still not helping me with anything, not getting my songs on any movies or anything. But this time I thought, okay, now I have proof. I went to Polygram. I said, look, this motherfucker's taking this song that was, you're publishing my song. Now I have proof. I have the original demo. Now he's made this song. He's taken it with and credited it to him and Vince Neil, Steve and Vince Neil writing the song, which is a ripoff. So now why don't you sue the motherfucker and get, this guy's a millionaire. So now you can get some money. Right. They didn't do nothing. They didn't do jack shit, of course. And that's the way it turned out. It's like totally useless. So I really got fed up with the music business. And the conflict with Steve was I played from the heart. And as it turned out, he played from the wallet.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a fact. And
no, that's I'm glad you cleared it up, because I've just heard
a nice guy. We got along, and like I said, he looked the part, and I thought that and we had fun times. We had some good times, and he was really, really talented. But then he was all of a sudden, I'm sure deep down he's very shallow.
I can't believe that.
It's incredible, right? You can imagine how I felt at the time. I was so disillusioned and so disappointed in life, and I thought, I felt betrayed. I felt like, okay, and I at the end of the album ended up costing $700,000, and I tried to stop it when I was about I think 300 or 350,000. And I got my A&R guy was in New York. So I was in LA, and there was the local A&R guy. This guy came in with his tan, came to the studio, and then Steven Wagner played him a couple of basic tracks. And I was like, well, sounds great, Michael. What's your problem? I said, what? So what do you want? You're like, it's not my record anymore. I mean, it's fucking, you want to spend another 300,000 and then realize it's a piece of shit that nobody likes. So, and then I ended up owing my label 700,000 plus after not faking it. After that album, they pulled a plug on that one. So I was already a couple of 100,000 in debt. So I owed $1 million to the label. So I had to get off the label. Otherwise, I would never have recouped anything.
Not faking it? Are you saying for not faking it?
For not faking it. After they had, after not faking it, it was on its way to sell. It could have sold millions, but then they had this. They had this stupid the TV commercial. I got back from a tour in Japan, and I saw Heavy Metal Headbangers Ball. They had this commercial on TV saying Michael Monroe, not faking it. He's the real deal. He's not faking it. Accept no substitute. The brains behind Hanoi Rocks is back. And I was like, what? The brains behind Hanoi Rocks? I was like, I made it seem like Hanoi Rocks was calculated, and Hanoi Rocks had no brains. That was the best thing about the band. So I was like, this is wrong. This is misrepresentative. I was like freaking out. I was, this is embarrassing. I called the label in the next Monday in the morning. I says, well, why don't you show me this commercial? I mean, it could have been good if it was done right. It was ridiculous. I don't know, accept no substitutes. He's not faking it. The brains behind Hanoi Rocks is back. How did you have to say the brains behind Hanoi Rocks? Excuse me. So they said, oh, you don't like the commercial? I said, no. Do you want us to pull it? I said, yes. So I said, okay. So they pulled the plug on the whole album and let it die. I thought maybe they make a new commercial, but then they didn't. They thought, okay.
I mean, that's insane because that was your album. That was your second album. The first one didn't get as much press because,
that was the international demo. Nights
right.
So Long. It's like I used that. I got signed with that record to Polygram worldwide,
which was good. But this one, Faking It, you had the Axel on it with you, which gave you help.
Axel didn't sing on it. He was on the video.
No, but I'm saying, but that gave you the visual of And since
that,
they actually were influenced by you guys.
Yeah, and little Steven was singing on that. Yeah. Right. Steven was on it. He wrote that song While You're Looking at Me for Me, and we wrote Dead Jail Rock and Roll together. And it's a great record.
Yeah, Man with No Eyes. I mean, it's a solid album.
Yeah, Man with No Eyes with the very cool lyrics about dictators are very much timely right now with the war and all the disease. We got famine while you feast. We got new kinds of disease. It was about like HIV at the time. Now it goes.
It should have just sold itself at that point. I mean, if they just stood back.
Yeah, exactly. So then they just let it die, and they said, well, if you're Bon Jovi, if you sell millions like Bon Jovi, then you can make demands like that. First, you got to sell the records. And I said, okay, fine. I'll just be more of a rarity than I'd rather do it on my own terms or not at all. So I said, okay, fine, be it. And I had to wait till about a year, a little over a year until they let me go. They dropped me. For a while, I thought they were going to keep me hanging there and they could have kept me because I had
a lot of bands,
album deal. I had a long deal with them for like 6 or 7 albums. So finally one day my lawyer called and says, Michael, they dropped you. I says, oh, that's too bad. Well, thank you for letting me know. And I was like, yippee, yeah. So I called little Steven. I said, Steven, now we can make the record I always wanted us to make. And you produced, and we started planning which ended up being the Demolition 23 album, which originally was going to be a Michael Monroe album. But then Steven convinced me to have a band name. I said, yeah, I got to have a name. And then Sammy came up with Demolition 23. I said, okay, yeah. Because I like the band situation, like I have now, even though the name is Michael Monroe. It's a band.
Well, you have a stellar band right now.
Yeah, the best band I could ever hope for, and that's
you got Conti, you got Rich Jones, Sammy, and Carl, solid.
And Carl, the best band you could hope for, and that's why I created. I make it. I'm very fair with everybody. I pretty much share everything very fairly and have that environment. I like to collaborate with people.
It's
have
healthy.
a good working environment with good guys. Great players, talented as hell and creative as hell. And I encourage everyone to write, and I choose the best songs for the albums, regardless of who writes them. And we work as a band, and that's the best thing. Great chemistry. Once in a blue moon, you find as great a chemistry as we have, and we play live. We hit the stage. That instant is magic. So it's really, really, I'm quite happy with that. And I have to say, so little Steven said to me, he says, well, isn't it great, Michael? One day you owe them $1 million, and next day you don't. The record label says, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's true." And of course, Demolition 23 wasn't as big. I mean, we didn't have a big label behind it, and it came out in Europe on Music for Nations, and we didn't have a big label pushing it and stuff, so it didn't get much attention. But still, at least I had a record that I could be proud of. That's why you can understand that the Jerusalem Slam was a thorn on my side, and I still never listened to it because it's a bad memory. But I recommend it.
Sorry to bring up that bad moment.
No. It's okay. I'm way over it, and I believe me. I had my time of anger and resentment and but I thought I always take responsibility for my own actions. I allowed it to happen. So, it was a big learning experience, the price for the education. Like Keith Richards says, all the times I've been ripped off by a manager, it's the price for the education, mate. And that million was that 700,000 was a big price for my education. And actually basically ruined my career in the States at the time, which could have been completely different, but hey, so what are you going to do about it? I mean, that's the way it goes. And I'm still happy. I would rather be me than anyone else, any of the other people involved, no matter how much money they may have.
Well, your albums, all your solo things have stayed true. I mean, I encourage everybody to go listen to all of them. I mean, you just continually to put out solid albums, and you know, some of them are, oh, you know, they get like, you know, Horns and Halos, but before that, Sensory Overdrive. I mean, you just constantly just go back, you know, you always just rocking them. And now One Man Gang is awesome. And I'm gonna say one of the things I really enjoy about you, and when you play with even with Hanoi, you had your singles, and like I actually think you had stronger songs than actually needing Up Around the Bend. I think actually your own stuff, like I was like, why are they putting a song on? It's fun, but their own songs are better. That's my opinion. With that being said, you guys, you're welcome. A lot of stuff you guys play is your sets, you put songs in there that may definitely songs you want to put in there, and not so much going for the commercial sound, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
your set list is It's like you'll open with 2 or 3 songs off a new album, and some bands will be like, no, it's got to be hits. There's a formula, and you're like, nope, I'm gonna do King's Road, I'm gonna do all these songs that are new.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of bands that are happy to bask in the glory of their, you know, past,
right.
Their, you know, the good old
days in the history. But and the fans like it, so it's not bad. But to me, I enjoy the creativity of being like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Every your live shows are always going to be different.
Yeah, that's right. And yes, there's so many bands that bask in the content to bask in the glow of nostalgia and play. They make an album to make it as an excuse to go on the road and maybe play one song of the new album. All the rest of it's all the old hits or whatever. And I would never do that. I'd rather be making the best records that I make of my career, like most people say. And the past 4 and now with the 5 records with the new one, being some of the best work in my career. And that's what I always I'd rather be that guy than somebody living in the past. And I always strive for better and for greatness and for perfection, which I'll never achieve. Luckily, that was keep me hungry. It's always room for improvement, and it's always great to get. I mean, it's a challenge, and then you achieve your goal with this new album too. And it really feels like we created something special. And I still love hearing it. I'm not tired of it at all. It's like when it's over, you feel like you want to hear it again. And I managed to keep it to the 11 songs. Which is a great amount. 10, 11, 12, 13 we had on Blackout Stage, and that's the most. No matter how great the songs, you want to, you get tired after a while. And this has so much variety, and the production also is pleasant to listen to.
You produced it there, right? Because you've been doing a lot of your own producing all the years. At the very beginning, you were producing from the very beginning, 81? I don't know.
Produced what?
All your first, you produced all Hanoi Rocks. You started in production up until now. Up until now, you're still producing.
Now we all produced, and we had producers like Jack Douglas did Sensory Overdrive, and then his mixes weren't happening, so we had to remix it with my guy Petri Maieri in Finland, and he mixed all the past 4 albums. But this album, we went for a new studio, a new engineer, Erno Laitinen, who did this, and this mix is different, and I'm glad we did that because
it's in Finland, though, right? The studio, because isn't there a deal? And I talked to Steve. He said to me about there's some kind of deal with the government, and they help musicians. They actually support musicians over there.
Oh yeah, you can get grants. You can get grants from the government especially with the corona. If you have the right person representing you, you can get grants for to help. Well, my problem with this band is only 2 of us are Finnish. Me and Sammy are Finnish, and the 3 of the other guys are foreigners. So that makes it a bit more difficult. But still, we've gotten some grants. Like when we toured we had to do a club tour in America in 2013. We had like 30,000 euros for a tour bus, from the government at the time to support the international, taking Finnish music to abroad, and that based on that.
Well, so you're a big part of Finnish music. I mean, you are on some levels the face of Finnish music, worldwide.
Yeah, I must say, Hanoi Rocks did, and I have taken Finnish music. Hanoi opened the doors for bands that never imagined. There's a lot of great bands here, but nobody ever thought of leaving Finland because they thought, it's in the big world, we're not good enough. And Hanoi, we just left here. We didn't even think that we were finished. We thought, we're going to get out of this country as far as possible and go to London, go to New York, go to, and make something of ourselves in the world. And that inspired and showed other bands that came later on, like him, HIM, that band, big in Germany, big in America, and they have career. Nightwish, Children of Bodom, and Rasmus, and those bands. they're really after Hanoi opened some doors, and these people, they're thankful that Hanoi did what we did, because then we thought, why not? Why not leave this country? And it's just good enough, good as anybody else. I remember with Hanoi, we went to London, and me and Andy were some party, and there was a band that was happening, and they had their new album, and they're showing a video at this party. I was like, well, Andy, we're way better than these guys here. They're locals, man. I think we got something much better. So I thought, yeah, we got a cool band, and this we got something to show the world, and do some world shaking, and But yeah, in Finland, that's a cool thing. Things change though with the government and stuff, and with rock and roll not really happening these days. Well, in America, it's part of the tradition, it's culture there, and that's why I'd love to play in America if I could, but the situation being as it is, you'll just lose a lot of money and you're going nowhere slow, really. So unfortunately, at the moment, the only gig we have in America is the Monsters of Rock cruise, which was canceled on our part because of the COVID situation. It's going to be happening next year. We're gonna play there. I believe it's in February. But yeah, I would be.
I'm tempted to go on that cruise. I've avoided cruises my entire life, but I'm like, oh man, I might have to make a Monsters of Rock cruise. I mean,
we were there once. We played there once, and guess who was on there? Michael Wagner. I said, hello, Michael, how you doing? And it was nice to see him. I mean, of course, he's a nice guy and all, but it was just a bad situation. It was he realized it was the wrong record. I mean, the wrong thing for me. But at the time, I was really, we had the dad, let me tell you one more, since we took all this time to talk about the Jerusalem Slam, like the record you're interested, a typical day in the studio there would be, the 3 months that we spent wasted there. I would have rather given the money to the homeless, man. But anyway, so we're sitting at the studio, and they're going like, okay, Steve is such a great player. So he was like trying out, then a couple of solos, and Michael was like adjusting the EQ. So I was like, that was great solo. It's just, okay, do another one, Steve. And then do the second one. I was like, wow, that's it. We're there, right? That's cool, right? We got the solo. And Michael, oh, no, excuse me. I am just adjusting the EQ just a little bit more. And
put a little recording ever?
Okay, now go, Steve. And then they did like 10 or 15 fucking solos. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, now we got like 10 of these, and every solo was like more and more like, oh, that's great, noodle in a million notes a second. I was like, what? That's just worse and worse and worse. And then in the end, it's okay, you got 10 tracks of this now. So now we got the solo. No, now we do a comp. Oh, you're telling me you don't have one solo out of all that? Now you're going to combine them together? Oh, God. So that's going to take an hour or two. And then I said, okay, now are we done with the solo? Yes. So now can we move on? No, now we go eat. And then we got to dinner for 2 or 3 hours in some fancy restaurant. I was like, oh my God. And you can imagine, I was freaking out. The worst experience possible. So then you can imagine with little Steven, after I got out of my deal, Demolition 23, 3 days of music, recording the basic tracks, 2 days I did all the vocals. Then we mixed 1 song per day. There were 10 songs. So it was like about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
He's been a savior, for rock and roll lately. Between his underground radio, his wicked cool records, like he has just been the man lately, coming out of left field. With Dr. Michael Bars, Steve's record. Actually, back there in the background, Steve's record is great. Like he's really just working with everybody and giving the artists a fair shot.
God bless little Steven. He is the savior of rock and roll with me. And I was just talking to him yesterday on the phone, and I was telling him about my 60th birthday concert that's going to be in, I'm turning 60 on June 17th in a couple of weeks. And there's a celebration in Helsinki at the Ice Hall on September 23rd. We're going to have a special concert with special guests and a big production.
Very cool.
Once in a lifetime. Yeah, a great event. So I was
happy early birthday. My invite must have gotten lost in the mail.
Thank you. I don't send it. I'm not even inviting myself. I'm uninvited.
Harassing you.
But I'm not invited anywhere, but I go wherever I please, and nobody will stop me. I have to respect. It's like Lemmy. No, he would go anywhere he likes, and nobody would say no to him. And there's a lot of respect. Maybe he was formidable, intimidating to some people, but he has still a heart of gold. Great guy, always consistently fantastic person. And that's what it's about to me. I'm my own person, and I'm nobody can take away from me what I have and what I've created. No,
you've stayed good. I mean, you guys, even your second version of coming back out with Hanoi Rocks, you put some solid albums out. You
Yeah,
did
and
not.
that was a
you didn't-
rebirth, and I would never have done a tour just to make some money out of Hanoi for the wrong reasons.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
That happened. Me and Andy met and got reacquainted and started creating something new. And I thought, well, we started the band together, and it was a rebirth. We actually created some new stuff, and it was
I
interesting.
liked it. I liked it.
Yeah, it was some good stuff. The 12 Shots in the Rocks album has really
Yeah.
cool stuff. And 5 songs of there were supposed to be on my solo album, which was the What You Want album. Which I decided took him off, and I replaced them with some covers, and decided to give the best songs to the Hanoi album. And that was a necessary period. And I was actually willing to do that for as long as it was fun, and for the rest of my life. But then it got to a point where it wasn't anymore. And then so we did 3 albums we made, and it was a good and necessary phase. And working with Andy to see what we could create after all these years, and after he had learned to respect my input in the writing, it was like 50-50. We were working together, as opposed to in the 80s, it wasn't like that.
No.
So it was at first it was really, really good, and we created something new.
There's some good live performances of you guys too playing, which is really good. I enjoy seeing you two play together live from that time.
Yeah, it was good. It was a necessary phase, but it's actually ironic because the band had the coolest name ever at Hanoi Rocks, I thought. And when I decided to use the name, it was a rebirth of that band in a way that, but then again, it was me and Andy and the rest of the guys. Although the last lineup, I think it was the best with Laku and drums and Connie Bloom.
I've talked to him before. He's great.
That was the best lineup, I think, for that band. But still, the lineup changed. It was mainly me and Andy were the main guys. So now with my band being called Michael Monroe, I have more of a band situation than that was as a band, when you think of it. So that's what I'm happy about. I mean, we came to a point where we decided this is not going anywhere. So let's just put the band to its final rest with its integrity intact, and do a couple of farewell tours and gigs. And the final shows at the Tavastia Club, where we started in Helsinki. 8 shows in 6 days, about 2.5 hours each, and a lot of singing for 1 week. And that was it. And we maintained the integrity.
Okay. And that's the thing. I can't think of a lot of bands that do the final tour, the final show.
Yeah.
And don't go back out and do another tour.
Oh yeah, all those bands. That is really, I think that's real low life. I mean, really low to cheating the fans. When how many times have? Well, of course, I will not mention any names, but that's so many bands. Okay, farewell tour. Okay, this is it, the last time, and then they do another tour. I mean, all the fans, of course, they want to see the band for the last time, right. And then
so
another one,
coughing up cash for it, and
another one. Yeah, it's just cashing. I mean, that's really. I think that's really unfair to the fans. I would never do that. That's cheating to me. Anyways, I mean, I'm not judging them, but to me, I would never do that. I think that's really unfair. And knowing I'm a fan of certain things, and I would never, of course, it's kind of like having an album with different colors of the cover, different covers. Like they had at one point that, yes, they want to, I'm all for selling physical product and vinyl, encouraging that, and having
colored vinyl is a little different as a vinyl collector. And there's very limited.
But having
different.
a cover artwork, but having an artwork,
album covers is ridiculous.
Album cover with a different color, nothing much else different, no different songs, the same album, not even right. Colored vinyl, but just the cover being looking different. And of course, all the hardcore fans are going to buy everything. So that's like, why would they make people buy the album with a different color? They did
it worse during compact discs and CDs and cassettes. So it wasn't even getting a new record. It was like to hold. It was usually getting a small picture on a cassette or a CD in a different color,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's it's crazy, but I would never do that like a farewell tour. It's not a farewell tour. I mean, that was a real farewell. We finished that, and that was it. And that was the Hanoi Mark II, whatever. And but it was still we maintain the integrity of the band, and it's fine.
I wanted to give you props for that because I saw that, and if people missed it, you missed a special moment. I missed it, but there's some really great footage of that online.
Yeah, there was a video. Of course, at the end of it all, the Japanese wanted to film the last show. After I've been singing all this whole week, I had no voice of that. But I was just, the last day I remember, I was like, anybody calls, like, can't talk now, see at the show. And whispering actually can be more straining to your throat too. So I was like trying to be quiet, and I managed to get through it. And that final show was filmed for a DVD. It's called Buried Alive in Japan. Buried Alive, Hanoi Rocks Buried Alive. That was the final the final gig of that the shows at Tavasti, and yes, it's not bad. It's still
No, it's
good.
good.
Considering I've been singing all week, it wasn't too bad. I was
You
all
have a
right.
strong voice. How do you keep your voice up?
I sing the right way. I support my voice with diaphragm. I had some breathing lessons in '84 from a local teacher. Was actually teaching classical, and she was an old lady in London, and then she had some things that I didn't agree with. She said you can't sing softly, for example. It had to be like you produce the voice in your diaphragm, and then your mouth is like guitars have that the space that you create the sound like very technically, which is good to support your voice. That way you don't lose your voice when you're on tour and you're singing every night. Most singers, rock singers, sing wrong. It's a strain from your throat, and that way you easily lose your throat. So, and warming up and warming down. Bob Ezrin showed me this pretty good warm ups. This like just massaging your vocal cords with the lowest tone you can get, and breathing and then singing. Once I had, I sang my voice. My voice was shut in the studio for the Two Steps from the Move sessions, and Ezrin said, "Do this, and then sing something real low, and then for an hour. We're going out to dinner." I was like, "Fuck you, man!" So I started singing "Childhood Living" real softly and breathy and really low key, low notes, the lowest I can have. And relaxing my throat, and that massages your vocal cords. And then after a while, I said, "Wait a minute, my voice came back." So Ezrin came back from dinner. I said, "So how you feeling?" He said, "Yeah, I'm good. Let's do it." So I sang "Boulevard of Broken Dreams" right there and then, and that's a good thing. And then I try to warm up before the shows. Steve always warms up with all this, all this, and I was like, I should do that, but I don't really do it as much as I should. But sometimes I just go out cold into
Steve's awesome. Dude makes me laugh so much.
Yeah, and he's a singer too, because he had
he is a good singer.
Tinnitus or something. He had to stop playing guitar for a year, so he had vocal lessons from Arcadia Agresta, and he actually, it's great to have great singers in the band. So that it's fantastic. But yeah, singing is it's physical, and I mean that's the thing. If the guitar players can change the string, but if you lose your voice, you're fucked. I mean, if you're like have laryngitis or something, you can't make any excuses. You just got to do the show. But being a pro, you always do the show no matter what, no matter how you feel like. And like Ezrin said, you can't feel like great it's not like every night you can't feel like, all right, yeah, let's rock and roll. You have to psych yourself into it, and a professional does the same show, and you hit the stage, you make it, and I always do 100%. You become almost superhuman when you're on stage. You do like things that you later on you can feel it in your muscles, your bones, but it's sort of it's very, to me, it's
you've held it up, and a lot of singers, there's only a handful of singers that can still do it. Some of them don't sing.
And here's say hello to my little friend. Ain't that a little honey?
That's beautiful. Does it have a name?
No, it was Stag. It's S-T-A-G-G. Well, I just call it my little honey. It's like a candy wrapper. And
beautiful.
My wife is, hang on. Wife's in the other room. I gotta check this out. I haven't played for weeks. Yeah, it's got a nice sound. It's soft and breathy, and looks good. That's the most important thing. I never forget when I was a friend of mine was doing merchandise for Miles Davis in New York. I always got to all the shows, and he came off stage once and was asking his right-hand man, "How was I?" And the guy said, his right-hand man said, "Yo, you played great tonight. You sounded fantastic." "I didn't know, how did I play? How did I look?" Got a new outfit. So of course I play like a genius. How did I look? One more thing I want to say before we finish.
Yes.
I got a note. This instrument? You blow from your nose into this hole, and then you adjust the pitch from the hole down here.
I have never. What is that?
Yeah, I use that a lot. Sometimes it's called the nose flute or the nose whistle, nose flute, I guess. And this I saw them in a music store in a jar, and I was like, "What are these?" And I said, "The nose flute." I said, "How do you play it?" And it's like that, and I was like, "Let me try it." It's like, yeah. Have some, even horns and halos. At the end of the song, there's that in the vamp.
Yeah.
There's a guitar and the nose flute, and me with a husky voice. I can get this real high notes sometimes, okay? So we created a sound nobody else can have. And on a new record, Dearly Departed, in the solo of Dearly Departed, you can hear in the background, it's like, there's this no sounds with the nose flute. So all the records have some nose flute at some point. All right.
See, just like Jethro Tull, you got flute in it.
What? Sorry?
Right back to the beginning, just like Jethro Tull, even you have flute in your music now.
Yeah, and I do play the flute actually. I studied flute, classical flute for a year, and that helped the finger for the sax and
Cool.
that way. But
I want to thank you, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I'm glad you could come on.
I took half an hour more than I was supposed to, and that's but it's a pleasure because it was nice.
I'm sorry. Well, thank you.
No, I chose that. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And this is stuff we were talking the good stuff, and I don't, that you some slim stuff, you were interested in that, and there's the story, the honest story from my point of view. Of course, there's somebody else's view and stuff, but Steve Stevens, God bless him. I hope.
You take care.
Take care. Stay well. Bye bye.
Bye.